Oh Krishna, I totally accept as truth all that you have told me. Neither the demigods nor the demons, O Lord, can understand your personality. Purport. Arjuna herein confirms that persons of faithless and demonic nature cannot understand Krishna. He is not known even by the demigods, so what to speak of the so-called scholars of this modern world? By the grace of the Supreme Lord, Arjuna has understood that the supreme truth is Krishna and that he is the perfect one. One should therefore follow the path of Arjuna. He received the authority of Bhagavad Gita. As described in the 4th chapter, the parampara system of disciplic succession for the understanding of Bhagavad Gita was lost, and therefore Krishna re-established that disciplic succession with Arjuna because he considered Arjuna his intimate friend and a great devotee. Therefore, as stated in our introduction to Gita Upanishad, Bhagavad Gita should be understood in the parampara system. When the parampara system was lost, Arjuna was selected to rejuvenate it. The acceptance by Arjuna of all that Krishna says should be emulated. Then we can understand the essence of Bhagavad Gita, and then only can we understand that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sarvam etadritam manye yanmam vadasi keshava nahite bhagavan vyaktim vidur devanadanava. O Krishna, I totally accept as truth all that you have told me. Neither the demigods nor the demons, O Lord, can understand your personality. So to understand Krishna is not easy, or shall we say, to understand his personality fully is extremely difficult. Krishna is the all-pervading Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is, in one sense, everything and everywhere. His energies are pervading the entire universe, and everything is a manifestation of his own potency. And even though everything throughout the whole creation is a manifestation of Krishna's potency, he does not have to struggle to create it. It is stated that Sabhavaki Jnana Balakriyacha, Krishna's energies manifest automatically out of his own nature. Just like us, when we want to accomplish something, it is a big endeavor, isn't it? Some days we are working hard like anything, and maybe we can accomplish a little bit. Maybe we can accomplish more, but it is a lot of work. And we become tired. And so many things are there. Problems also come. But Krishna, when he wants to do something, his desire to do it causes it automatically to be done. All that he has to do is determine that it shall be done, and it is done. How? So Bhavaki, by his own nature. What is that? Jnana, by his knowledge, potency. Because Krishna is all knowledge, by his knowledge potency, as soon as he wishes something to occur, then all of the intelligence and knowledge necessary for it to occur just are manifested very quickly. Bhavaki, Jnana, Bala, his strength, the potency to accomplish this purpose also is automatically there. All power and all opulence, all ingredients are all automatically assembled by Krishna's desire. And Kriya, his prowess or ability. One may have knowledge, And one may have things, opulences. But to put the two together requires some ability. I may know, for instance, theoretically, how to build this roof. Theoretically. I don't even know theoretically how to build this roof, but this is just an example. So theoretically, one may know how to build that roof so that all the bricks don't fall down. It's interesting how they all stay up there. But to actually do it, you have to have the art. The technique has to be there. You have to be skilled. You have to be learned. You have to be trained. It's not that you just know how to do something and you can do it. We see this in the modern school system. They train people in knowledge, but when they get out of school and they are about to take up some work in the normal society, they have to go to training again to actually learn how to do something practical. We've seen this as one of the problems in the material world. So, Krishna, he has all prowess also, all abilities. They are all manifesting automatically as part of his nature. There's nothing that Krishna can't do, in other words. Everything is within his capability. Now, since Krishna is unlimitedly capable, and since we are very limited in our capability, it stands to reason that it will be extremely difficult for us, who are limited, to understand the Supreme, who is unlimited. This is obvious, isn't it? To a lot of people, it's not obvious. To some, they think that to understand the Supreme is fully within their capacity. I have heard some persons argue that the Supreme shall be defined by me in such a way that this person shall understand everything perfectly. And if something is not defined, then they say he does not exist. If something is not according to their understanding, they say it is not possible. Just like we were speaking this morning about Krishna holding up Govardhan Hill on his left pinky for 7 days. So that does not seem to be something that a God would do if there was one. But that's not very good logic. First of all, if there was one, using the nonsense logic of the skeptic, he would be unlimited, infinite, and free to do what he wanted when he wanted to do it. Would he not? Yes, he certainly would. So, couldn't he also, if he wanted, create anything, do anything, cause anything to occur? Of course. So if he wanted to hold up a mountain, could he do it? Well, certainly. Now, if he's holding up the mountain, does he have to do it like Atlas or something like that? Struggling, sweating, bent over? Does he have to do it like that? No. He could just hold it up even without touching it, couldn't he? So if he desires to hold it up on his left pinky, why not? Who can say he cannot? Of course he can. He can do whatever he likes, whenever he likes. So the skeptic who says he cannot do it is a fool. And as a class, the demoniac class of man always says things like, there is no God, in any way he would not come here, and holding up a mountain, this makes no sense. In other words, they want to bring the activities of Krishna down to the level of man or some great man or something like that. Or they ascribe the qualities of man to God. They say, we are like this. We would not hold up a mountain on our left pinky for 7 days. We would get bored. Therefore, he is like that. But the difference between us and the Supreme is that he's never bored. He's never unhappy. He's never sad. He's never lamenting. We, on the other hand, are generally unhappy, generally lamenting. Maybe not all the time, but a lot of it. And boredom has been seen to be one of the greatest psychological diseases in the modern society. But Krishna has no such problem. If for 7 days he is holding up the Govardhan hill, first of all he's doing it because Indra is sending rain for 7 days. So the hill has to stay there to protect the inhabitants of Vrindavan. Secondly, while he's holding up that hill, he's reciprocating with each and every one of his devotees who are under the hill in a very loving way. And for them, those 7 days, they went like a few moments only. So, Krishna even turned that whole situation into one in which his loving pastimes were expanded. So who's going to know that Krishna? How are you going to know Krishna? If he is certainly so beyond our comprehension, how are we going to know him? We may know of him. We may know something. But we cannot know everything. We can only know something. Some small something. Because Krishna is beyond our comprehension. There's a verse in the Upanishads which say that it is not possible. Nalabhya pravachanena labho medaya nasukaya buhena. It is stated that not by, simply. For instance, if one sometimes thinks that if he just goes and preaches, then he'll realize Krishna. And he must realize Krishna. Sometimes our preachers become sometimes a little proud. Maybe. You're not saying. Okay. Well, anyway, sometimes maybe we become a little proud. And we think we shall realize Krishna in that way. But no, not simply by preaching can you learn Krishna. Or simply by being a good hearer. Or by having big intelligence and brain. None of these things are sufficient to realize Krishna. Then one may ask, well then what is? Because we thought these were the best qualities. But what is sufficient? Well, what is sufficient is when Krishna desires to reveal himself to you, then you will realize him. In other words, we are completely dependent on Krishna's desire to reveal himself to us. Now one may say, well then that just leaves us at the mercy of Krishna. Well, first of all, that's not bad. But even if one thought like that, no, it's not exactly like that. Because Krishna becomes inclined towards that person who serves him with love. The more we serve Krishna with love, the more inclined he becomes towards us. Sometimes people, they only think that worshiping God is like a one-way street. This is a criticism also of communists and others like that. They think, you simply give everything to God, and he gives nothing back to you, except that which you would have gotten anyway. Here you are, you're calling out to your God, he doesn't help you, you're still suffering. They criticize like that, because they have no realization of the reciprocation. Krishna says, Yeyatamam prapajante tam sutaiva bhajanaham. As they surrender unto me, all of the different classes of devotees, yogis, jnanis, whatever, I reward them accordingly. In other words, as we surrender to Krishna, so Krishna reciprocates with us. And here is the wonderful thing about the relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He reciprocates our love. And he reciprocates it more than we give. If we love Krishna so much, he reciprocates so much. Or put another way, if we take one step towards Krishna, he takes 2 steps towards us. But we have to step. If we don't want to step towards Krishna, he won't step towards us. Not because it's business or fruit of activity, but because it is up to us to make the move towards Krishna. It is not up to him. He already has done so much. After all, in the spiritual world, we took a step away from Krishna. We have now been given by Krishna all the opportunities there are. He's there within our heart. He's giving us inspiration. He is giving us these Vedic literatures. He's giving us his association. He sends us his devotees. Srila Prabhupada has written all these wonderful books just for us. So everything is given. Here, take it. Now at one point, it's up to us to go forward and reach for it. In other words, Krishna has gone so far forward for us. Now we have to reach out to him. And then Krishna will reward that. The more we reach out to Krishna, the closer he will come to us. And that reciprocation encourages us, enthuses us to increase our devotion for Krishna. Yes, and that is the taste in spiritual life. This taste is very important. It's called ruchi. First there's rati, then there's ruchi. Rati means attachment. When one actually becomes attached. And ruchi means when you got taste. When you actually have a taste for loving Krishna. So first we have to develop attachment to the Supreme Lord. And then the relationship between the Lord and his devotee, as Krishna calls his devotee closer to him, becomes more and more ecstatic. The real point is, one must reach out for Krishna. Lao Sayami. Loyam Lao Sayami. This is one of the words used by Srila Rupa Goswami in the Nectar of Devotion. Where Rupa Goswami talks about the intense desire of the devotee to capture the lotus feet of his Lord. Practically, he's calling out in great pain of the heart. Krishna! Okay, Mercedes, you can go back to a 280 version. We're trading in the 500 version for the 280. So, the devotee calls out Krishna, and Krishna, hearing the intense cry of that devotee, he becomes very much, shall we say, becomes close to that devotee, becomes purchased by that devotee. Actually, this word is even used, purchased. When Queen Kunti, for those who don't know, Queen Kunti was the mother of the Pandavas, who were forced to go to the forest for 13 years, being cheated in the gambling match with their cousins. They didn't even want to enter into that match, but they got cheated by their cousins who wanted to take over the kingdom. So part of the cheating was that they had to go to the forest for 13 years. So they were sent away, and they brought their mother as well. Queen Kunti was their mother. So sometimes out there in the forest it was very difficult. But just imagine if we had to all just walk off to the forest for 13 years. No place to live. Just go in the forest. How about that? All kinds of ferocious animals were there. And in those days there were rakshasas in the forest. A rakshasa, I would suppose, is something like our concept of what a cannibal is. They love to eat people, especially children, because the meat is very tender. So, there were many Rakshasas in the forest, heavy, ugly, horrible fellows. And they had to meet Rakshasas also and battle with them. There were spies of Duryodhana everywhere, trying to find them and cause trouble to them. So, life was not easy. It was very difficult. But they were depending on Krishna completely, and somehow everything worked out. Like when their house, they were staying in one house which was made of shellac. They didn't know it was made of shellac. You know, the shellac in its natural form, when you take it from sap of trees, is very thick. So the house was made of lac like that. It looked to be like some solid substance, but actually it was very, very flammable. Had somebody made some drop of a candle or something, and the house would burn in a few seconds only. No way to get out. Trapped immediately. Cannot get out. So the Kauravas, their envious cousins, made them a house of shellac and caused them to stay in that house in the forest. And then, just before they were about to set fire to that house that night, Vidura, the uncle of the Pandavas, sent a message to them saying, there are weapons which are not sharp like steel, but which can kill nonetheless. So there was some coded message, because if he told the truth, they were going to burn down your house tonight, then he would get in a lot of trouble since he was living amongst them. So he sent a coded message like this, and other signs were there of some strange activities around the house. So the Pandavas were smart and they understood. This house is made of lac, and somebody could burn it down any minute. Let's get out of here. And Vidura, he made a tunnel. He had his men, because he was also very powerful, had his men prepare a secret tunnel into the house of the Pandavas. And that door opened in that tunnel. They said, come on. And the Pandavas went down through that tunnel, and they went a long way, and then went over a big river and walked a long way. That night, Bhima, after the house burned down, Bhima carried all of his family. Yes, he carried Arjuna and Yudhisthira here on his hips, and Nakula and Sahadeva on his shoulders, and Kunti on his head. And it is stated he walked hundreds of miles at night. Now you may say, well, that sounds pretty unbelievable. Yes, it does. Bhima was himself pretty unbelievable. You cannot find people nowadays as big as him. Huge man. For them to sit on his shoulders was no problem. He had big shoulders. And strong, like anything. All of the rest of them, they were sleeping. And he was just walking all night long. And then they wanted to put Bhima to sleep after they arrived somewhere, because he had walked all night long. So he said, okay, our dear brother, you go to sleep now. We'll make a nice place for you, and we'll go and capture some food or something so that we can eat. But then, jumping down from a tree is a big Rakshasa who decides that, well, these people look very good to eat, and I'm hungry too. His name was Hindimba. He was a hungry Rakshasa. So then, as soon as he landed on the ground, ready to eat up everybody, Bhima said, what is this? A Rakshasa. So immediately, after bathing, he had been bathing just before he was about to take rest. The other Pandavas had already rested. So immediately he went into battle with the Rakshasa, even though he hadn't slept all night long. And his brothers were complaining. They were saying, why are you doing this? Battling this Rakshasa? Let us do it. You haven't even slept. You haven't even eaten anything. How are you going to battle him? We're all fresh and ready to fight, so let us do it. He said, no. It's my business to protect everybody. He was the protective brother. And so Bhima and Hindimba were having a huge battle. This was going on for a long time. So you can just imagine. Of course Bhima won. And then, in fact, he married the sister of that Rakshasa, Hindimbi. And from that marriage, Gatkuk Gatotkacha was born, who was the son of Bhima and was so huge and enormous because he was half of the Pandavas and half from the Rakshasa race, that in the battle of Kurukshetra he was responsible for killing many thousands of men. Anyway, the history in the forest was very, very dangerous. There were so many troubles. But Queen Kunti, because she was so much disturbed by all of these things all the time, she just called out to Krishna, "Hey Krishna! Hey Govinda!" Now he's gone the other way. Very soft speaking. Find a middle ground, please. Hey Krishna! Hey Govinda! Calling out to Krishna like that, calling out to Govinda like that. And then, while she was so much absorbed in just calling out to Krishna with no other shelter, Krishna said, "She has purchased me by her cries. By being so much dependent on me, I have no other recourse than to offer her all protection." In fact, when Krishna was going to leave Dwarka, after the battle of Kurukshetra was finished, he was just on the chariot and Queen Kunti came up and said, "This is very strange. When we were in the forest, suffering like anything, then we felt your presence very much. You were always with us, and we were crying out to you. Now, when all the dangers are gone, the battle is finished, we are all here peacefully in our own place. Now you're going away." So she said, "Bring back the suffering conditions again, so that we could see again and again your lotus feet." Actually, we learn from this example that suffering conditions are not necessarily bad. Suffering conditions can help us to surrender to Krishna more. And in fact, sometimes when everything's very nice, that causes us difficulties, because then we don't surrender to Krishna. We think, yes, let us surrender to the body. Make all nice arrangements for our bodies. And then when the bodies are very nice, then we forget everything. Therefore, Krishna is very merciful upon his devotees and always makes the devotees remember his lotus feet by giving us some difficulties here or there. When you become too complacent, Krishna gives you a little slap in the face. You have to remember him. In any case, we may understand Krishna like this, as our shelter, our protector. That is all right. We may understand Krishna as the source of the whole creation, the source and the maintenance of the whole existence. We may also understand Krishna as the grand destroyer of all worlds and all things. And we may certainly understand Krishna as our most worshipful and lovable object. All of these different ways of understanding Krishna are good. Of course, to simply take one way and forget the other ways may not be so good. But when one is aware of Krishna, when one actually has this consciousness of Krishna, he will understand him in different ways to a certain degree. We can know Krishna to a certain degree, but not completely. After all, it is Krishna who is arranging for all of the things that are taking place in the world to take place under his plan. Why he's doing like the way he's doing, I don't know. You don't know, I don't think. It doesn't seem that anybody can understand perfectly well why the Lord has chosen to do things as he has. But one thing we can know is that it is certainly under his control. According to our desires and according to the desires of all of the persons in this world, he's giving the facility for everything to take place. That is his mercy, and that we can understand, the merciful nature of Krishna. But that which is most satisfying to us the living entity, is when Krishna relates with us in love. That we can understand, again, not fully, because we cannot understand how Krishna is relating to everybody. We only understand how Krishna relates with us. We only can feel the love that Krishna has for us. We don't understand how Krishna is relating to this person, that person, the other person. But it doesn't matter, does it? Really? It doesn't matter, really. What really matters is Krishna's relationship with us and our relationship with Him. And therefore, we become fully satisfied in that relationship. We are limited, very much limited, small, but still, we are so satisfied by that relationship of loving reciprocation between the Lord and His devotee that we don't mind the fact that we don't know Krishna fully. After all, how can we? The small part can never know the great whole fully. It is not possible. I may know Krishna to that degree to which I am capable, which means some small degree. That's what it means. Satchit Ananda. My knowledge of Krishna is limited. I don't have all knowledge, but I am full of knowledge. There's no ignorance within me. I am not, by my spiritual nature. There's no ignorance there. Now in my material nature, yes, there's ignorance, born of the body, born of the mind, born of the modes of material nature. Certainly there is some ignorance there. But in my spiritual nature, no, it's full of knowledge. But not all knowledge, because I'm a very small cup. I may be full of knowledge, but it's a small cup. As compared to Krishna, who's like a huge ocean of knowledge. I'm a little cup of knowledge. But if that little cup of knowledge is full, aware, dedicated to serving Krishna, that is perfectly satisfying. So now, Arjuna is telling Krishna in this verse, after he has heard so much, we explained last night about the different qualities of Krishna that were described by Arjuna. Parambhavam. Krishna, He is the supreme abode, the supreme resting place. He is the supreme maintenance. Paramdhamam. Pavitram Paramam, the supreme pure. Krishna has all of these qualities. Now tonight, Arjuna is saying, "Oh Krishna, everything you have told me, I accept in truth." This is another form of surrender to the Supreme Personality of God. One simply accepts everything that Krishna is telling us in truth. Is it possible to open some other door there so some cross breeze can come? But then all the flies come. Not that door?
No, it's already open.
Okay.
Maybe the window outside. Today. Mach das Fenster auf.
Okay, now there's some breeze coming. That's good. You see how limited we are? We have to have air. Without air, what happens? Everybody just... Krishna doesn't require anything. He's self-sufficient. Atmarama. He has everything already there. For us, we're totally dependent on everything. You turn out the lights and we can't see anything anymore. No air, we all fall down. Nothing to eat, we all become crazy. We're so limited. How are we going to understand Krishna? We're so much bound by the needs of eating, sleeping, bathing, and defending. How are we, who are so much bound by these problematic qualities, how are we ever going to understand Krishna in full? But Arjuna says, and this is a very good start, Sarvam etad vritam manye annam vadasi Keshava. I totally accept everything that you have told me. That is the start. To understand Krishna, the first thing you do is you accept what he says. That's called the parampara. Evam parampara praptam imam rajarshayo viduhu. You accept that knowledge which is coming in the disciplic succession from the Supreme Personality of Godhead Himself. Just as all the great kings and saintly persons understood it in that way, so one must also understand it that way. Not whimsically. After all, we cannot understand Krishna on our own like that. But what He tells us, we can understand. One may say, well, I will figure it all out on my own. But we have seen many cases of persons who are trying to figure it all out, and their conclusion is some impersonal conclusion. They don't come to the personal conclusion. They come to the impersonal conclusion. Therefore, when we want to understand Krishna, what better way than He shall tell us about Himself? You cannot understand the Supreme unless the Supreme Himself comes and says, I'm like this. Then you can understand Him. Otherwise, by mental speculation, how to understand Krishna? He's so great. By our mental speculation, we can understand something great. Maybe. But something infinitely great, we cannot understand. Krishna cannot be understood by our own mental speculation. He can only be understood by His own mercy. And that mercy is manifested through the eternal disciplic succession, whereby knowledge about Krishna is passed down from generation to generation for the sake of all of us. Otherwise, how are we ever going to understand Him? But we can understand Him from having heard. Acharyaman Purusha Veda, those who have got spiritual master in disciplic succession. It's like Arjuna here is saying, I totally accept this truth, all that you have told me. He has accepted Krishna as his spiritual master. Krishna is Adi Guru. He's everybody's spiritual master. He's the original spiritual master. Just like sometimes people wonder, because Krishna has chosen Arjuna as the one through whom the whole disciplic succession will be rejuvenated. He said, Imam vivasate yogam proktavanaham avyayam. Now, we have a problem here. In the 4th chapter, verse 1, Krishna says, in the beginning, I spoke this knowledge to the sun god Vivaswan, who in turn spoke this knowledge to his son Manu, who in turn spoke this knowledge to his son Ikshvaku, the first king on the earthly planet. So this is a problem, because if you look in our disciplic succession, in the front of the Bhagavad Gita, you don't find Vivaswan, you don't find Manu, and you don't find Ikshvaku. Uh-oh. And you don't find Arjuna either. Uh-oh. What's wrong? Well, now we're in trouble. What's to be done? Doubt, doubt, doubt. No. Doubt not. There's no problem. Because Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is the Adi Guru of every disciplic succession. Every disciplic succession has Krishna as the original authority. Whatever Krishna says to every living, every acharya of that particular disciplic succession is absolute truth in everybody's disciplic succession. So although that succession which was established through Vivaswan did not last, it fell down because of time. Krishna himself said it. That knowledge which Krishna spoke at that time becomes the absolute truth for everybody in all disciplic successions. Therefore, Bhagavad Gita is the universally accepted literature as the basic literature of every disciplic succession, every Vaishnava disciplic succession. You will find Bhagavad Gita in the Brahma Sampradaya, that's what we're in. Bhagavad Gita is the main book in the Ramanuja Sampradaya, in the Sridhar Swami Sampradaya, in the Vishnu Swami Sampradaya, in the Nimbarka Swami Sampradaya. The Brahma, Rudra, Lakshmi, and Kumara Sampradayas all have Bhagavad Gita as the basic book, and Srimad Bhagavatam. So, it is simply a question of the way of looking at the relationship with Krishna. the way in which one develops his loving relationship with Krishna. That is the only difference we find in our Vaishnava successions. So, Arjuna is saying quite rightly, I accept everything. I accept whatever you say, and I accept it as truth, and I want to follow it too. This is, of course, the more important step. Anyone can say, yes, yes, I accept whatever you say. And then you say, all right, now what about doing? No, no. That is not actually acceptance. Acceptance means, yes, yes, I accept what you say. All right, now, then, do like this. Yes, I will do. That is acceptance. We are not talking here just theoretical knowledge. There's a difference between jnana and vijnana. Jnana means theory, knowledge. Like when you learn from something from a book. So, you know it. You don't really know it that well. It's not realized, but you know it. It's like, if Prabhupada always used the example, this is a microphone, so the small child doesn't know what this is. So he asks his father, Daddy, what is that? And the father says, that's a microphone. So then the child goes to his friends and says, I know what that is. That is a microphone. Then the other friends say, how do you know that? Because my father told me. Therefore I know that is a microphone. And they go, oh, his father told him. Yes, it must be a microphone. So, we may not know. The child, he still doesn't know what a microphone is. He doesn't know you talk into it and it makes your voice big. He just knows that thing that looks like this with the ball on the end and the switch. This is a microphone. So this is jnana. He knows, but he doesn't know really. And when one knows that if you turn the switch off, the voice disappears. And when you turn it on, it's back again. And that it's big, he knows this is a microphone that's connected to an amplifier. Then it really acts like a microphone. So, realized knowledge. That's not the greatest example, but it means that when you know something and when you realize something, that is the difference between jnana and vijnana. So, one thing that comes in Krishna, when you're a Krishna conscious, is that you get both jnana and vijnana. Jnana vijnana sahitam yajgadva mokshashe shubhat. And this knowledge, both of the philosophical nature and of the practical nature. Understand? Okay. Of the practical nature, philosophical nature, and practical nature. This knowledge is all auspicious and removes all doubts. Therefore, in Krishna consciousness, we want to approach Krishna first with that theoretical knowledge, but by our service, by our chanting, by our loving relationship and surrender. Then we approach Krishna on the realized platform. And at that time, the lotus feet of Krishna become more than a phrase. To us, it's a phrase of words. Lotus feet, what is that? Krishna's lotus feet. It's a phrase, no? It's a song. But when one has realization, it's like some punishment or something. when one has realization, if I said the lotus feet of Krishna is a phrase, and he's on the tax. It's not a phrase. When one has realization of the real lotus feet of Krishna, then he knows these lotus feet are like umbrellas which cover one from the very severe conditions of the material world. Therefore we take shelter of those lotus feet. One actually understands what it means. One understands Krishna in full. It's like when a person who does not know, he sees a nice picture of Krishna. He sees a painting. He says, oh, that's a nice painting. He will think like that. He will see paint on paper and on a wall, it's a painting. No. But the realized personality, he says, oh, how beautiful Krishna is. He's not even seeing a painting. When he looks at the eyes of Krishna, he sees the Supreme Lord himself. And sometimes the Supreme Lord will choose to say something as he likes. And then one will understand very well At that time, sometimes one's voice becomes choked up, the hairs on his body stand on end, his throat makes a sound like gug gug, and he faints. I wonder why you're laughing. Why are you laughing when I say?
Because it's nice.
That's the right answer. Yes. Because it's wonderful. If you were to say that about it to anyone else in the material world, you know, it's a material thing. That you look at Krishna and then you just become overwhelmed and faint. They'll think, well, there's something wrong with that. You better do something about that. Get some smelling salts and. This was a problem also. Lord Chaitanya, when he left his home in Mayapur, and he traveled to Jagannath Puri. As he was coming closer to Jagannath Puri, he was running the whole way. He ran right into the Jagannath temple and fell down in ecstasy before the deity. And the pujaris there were very much upset. Who is this person coming in? So they were about to throw him out when Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was there. And Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he said, no, there's something about this person which makes me think that there's something special here. Because he put also one feather, like a feather, under the nostrils of Lord Chaitanya. And he could see that there was hardly any movement. There was the slightest movement. Because he was not dead, but he was not faking. But sometimes people, they come into the temple to make a big show. And they go, whoa! Whoa. You'll find it's called Prakrita Sahajya class. They make things cheap. They want attention. They want everybody to think they're very nice and all that. So the test is you put one feather under the nostril, and if it's just blowing back and forth like normal breathing, then you know this is a phony. That is not trance. Yeah. But for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the feather just hardly moved at all. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya said, this person is highly spiritually advanced. There's a real trance here. So they picked him up and carried him, and Lord Chaitanya stayed in that trance for days. His associates came running to find him, and they started chanting into his ears. They woke him up. Otherwise, he would not wake up. He was gone to Krishna Loka. There was no way he was interested in remaining in the material world, so he had the opportunity, he took it. But it was by his associates chanting. They brought him back. And when he woke up chanting, Krishna, Krishna, where are you? Because he was there with Krishna, and then they brought him back, and he said, Krishna, Krishna, where are you? At that time, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya could understand, this is no ordinary person. This person is extraordinary. Therefore, I'd better teach him Vedanta. He got just the wrong conclusion. Here's Lord Chaitanya already in the topmost supreme ecstasy of love of God. It's so far beyond the Vedantic philosophy, there's no comparison. But Sarvabhauma was thinking, well, this person's so emotional, he needs some intellectualism. Therefore, you kindly sit down and listen to Vedanta. Actually, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he was Brihaspati from the heavenly planets. But he forgot that. When he took birth within the earth planet for accepting a position as within Lord Chaitanya's pastime, he forgot he was Brihaspati, the spiritual master of the demigods. He didn't remember it. He thought he was Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. And although he was born in a very great Brahmin family, he was actually contaminated by the Mayavadi philosophy, and he learned from Mayavadis. Although when he was born, he knew better, but still, that's the way of the material world. You can become contaminated if you accept the wrong philosophy. You can lose all your spiritual intelligence. If you accept this philosophy, it's all one, there's no difference, no discrimination, no variety. I am God, you are God, we're all God. It's very severe. So Brihaspati forgot everything and became Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, the great Mayavadi scholar of Vedanta. And therefore Lord Chaitanya just sat and listened to Sarvabhauma for 7 days. without just looking off in the distance, very peacefully sitting. And Sarvabhauma was going on and on and on and on and on and on and on, page after page after page of concept after concept of concept. And at the end, he asked, he said, my dear Chaitanya, 7 days now I've been talking to you this Vedanta, but you make no response whatsoever. You don't tell me this is good, you don't tell me this is bad, you don't say this is right, this is wrong, you don't ask any questions. He was starting to wonder, is he capable of understanding philosophy at all? Maybe he's just, foolish in the brain. He can't understand anything. Am I wasting my time? He said, in a nice way, he said, do you understand anything I'm saying? And Lord Chaitanya said, no. I don't understand one word you're saying. Sarvabhauma was. Lord Chaitanya said, the sutras of the Vedanta are very clear to me what they mean. But the way you have described them, I cannot understand anything at all. And Sarvabhauma was really astounded. He expected just a different kind of an answer. And Lord Chaitanya said in essence that, yes, Vedanta Sutra is very clear to him, but what Sarvabhauma said was all nonsense. 7 days he just patiently listened to nonsense. So then Lord Chaitanya, being requested by Sarvabhauma, who said, well, if you think you know Vedanta so well, will you kindly teach it to me? He didn't expect what was coming. So then Lord Chaitanya taught Sarvabhauma what actually was Vedanta Sutra, the end of the Vedas. And Sarvabhauma became completely converted. He was amazed. He couldn't imagine having ever heard such a philosophy. He was in a state of shock. So, to understand Lord Chaitanya or Lord Krishna, or to understand them, to know about them, to hear about them, it gradually begins to develop our relationship with them. When we accept our being limited, we actually accept our relationship with Krishna, then he actually becomes very close to us. He's already closer to us, as close as our very self, after all. He's situated in our heart, directly next to us. Now it is up to us to reach out for him, turn towards him, develop our love for him, surrender to him. Otherwise, we'll have so many difficulties in this world. Without surrendering to Krishna, there's no hope. No hope of happiness or supreme destination, peacefulness. All of these nice qualities come when we actually reach out to Krishna. When we actually surrender to him and accept everything he said and serve him with loving devotion. Are there any questions?
The knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita was available to other sampradayas after that Lord Krishna spoke it to Arjuna already before?
No, Bhagavad Gita came into existence as Bhagavad Gita after the time of Krishna speaking it to Arjuna. But previously it was also there. Because Krishna said, I spoke this knowledge as I am speaking today to Vivaswami, who spoke it to Manu, who spoke it to Ikshvaku, and thus it became known in human society. But the particular form of it and the particular relevance of it in that way was lost in due course of time. Therefore, Krishna re-established it, and at that time everybody had it, and we still have it. It's not lost. Yes?
Is there no other way but only to surrender to Krishna?
Yeah, there's no other way than to surrender to Krishna. You're going to surrender to Krishna anyway. But some do it by force. And then it doesn't count. When you're forced to surrender, just like old age, disease, and death, they force you to surrender to Krishna's will. In the sense that the material universe is made in such a way that you've got to die. And then you have to surrender. You surrender everything. All of your bodily strength, intelligence, beauty, money, fame, renunciation, strength, everything gone. By force. Such surrender by force doesn't do you any good, because next lifetime, in a new body, start all over again with all that karma from previous lifetime. But when you surrender by desire, when you surrender out of your own desire, then that surrender brings you to the topmost platform of perfection. The surrender you're going to do anyway. So there's no use asking if the only way is surrender, because it's going to come anyway. But the real question is, voluntary surrender, yes, that will give you everything. Now someone may say, well, then I'd like to go the slow route. Jnana, karma, things like that. Yes, you can do that too, but that's also surrendering to Krishna. Because you're also surrendering to his process. But it's not as effective. It will get you somewhere, but ultimately you've got to get to the point anyway of surrendering to Krishna, so why not sooner than later? Anyway, you're going to surrender to Krishna. No, because it's not going to happen to you. You've got to make it happen.
Yeah, but if I eventually have that, well, is everybody else to eventually have to surrender to Krishna?
No, I'm talking about you.
All right, if I can eventually have to surrender to Krishna, then it's basically a waiting game. It's this life and next life.
Well, then you may keep right on waiting. So long as you call it waiting, you may have to just keep on waiting. Because it's not waiting. It requires the active step forward. Voluntary surrender. So it is basically a waiting game, so long as you keep waiting. And at that point, when you stop waiting and reach out for Krishna, at that point it becomes something else. It becomes real surrender. So the point is, you either make the step now, or maybe later, who knows? It gets highly doubtful the longer you wait. Or maybe next lifetime, maybe not. Maybe 10 lifetimes, 20 lifetimes. Ooh, who wants to wait so long? You really want to get packed up in another womb? Ooh, jammed in, heads, feet, legs, packed in with some tube coming out of you, and you eat that way. You want that? You can become a little baby, dragged out by your feet and whacked on the rear end, crying. Pass stool in your pants all the time. It's nice, huh? Ooh. Just think about being a little baby. It's real fun to have babies, right, girls? All the girls love to have the babies. They love to pat the babies, isn't it? But then imagine being the baby. It may be nice for you, but imagine being the baby. You feed the baby, then you hold the baby, and then he throws up on your back. Blah. What bliss to be a little baby. To suffer like anything all the time, be totally dependent on the mother. What if the mother doesn't care one day? Go on crying, I don't care. The baby's just crying. You want to be another baby? Well, I'm sorry. Well, that's my job, you know. I know I don't want to be another baby. They have to go this way. come back again for all of you who don't surrender. Oh, how terrible. So you all have to go back to Godhead. Otherwise you make me come back again. Oh no. Don't do it to me.
Kann ich Deutsch sprechen?
Vielleicht.
Was heißt,
Ich weiß nicht.
es heißt, man soll sich mit freier Hingabe zu Krishna, also hingeben, freien Wunsch entwickeln, oder? Aber am Anfang ist es doch so, also ich spüre es so, dass ich unter Zwang, also ich muss mich zwingen dazu. Und dann ist es ja nicht freie Hingabe, es sind Zweifel da und die zwingen mich. Und ich will wissen, ob das von Krishna auch akzeptiert wird. Und ob dann Krishna mir auch näher kommt. Wenn ich am Anfang Zweifel habe, vielleicht auf gewissen Prinzipien oder ja.
So doubts are a function of intelligence. When you have some intelligence, then you have doubt. Only a fool has no doubt. Everybody has some doubts. However, the doubts may be answered. That is something which allows us to conquer doubt. Therefore, Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, he perhaps says 100 times something about doubt, that this will relieve you of all doubts. Without a doubt, all doubts will be finished like this. Because doubt is something which comes when one has a brain. Without any question. But with that brain, he has to ask, I have this doubt, what is the answer? When he gets the answer, the doubt should be finished. When the doubts are finished, then one comes closer to Krishna. If one is keeping doubts, perhaps he's keeping the doubts because he doesn't want to surrender. Perhaps he protects his doubts as an excuse not to surrender. That is a problem. One protects his doubts very carefully. Even if there's a possibility of the doubt being answered, he doesn't listen. And he never asks about the doubt, just to make sure that it's never answered. It's like having money in the bank. You have a doubt in the back. So that one day, if you really want to enjoy your body some more, then you pull that doubt out. And you say, see? Here's a doubt! I can't surrender to Krishna now. I have to enjoy. So long. It's like money in the bank, you know. One has to be very careful not to protect his doubts like this, but to expose them. After all, we have to be willing to say, well, I have this doubt. And we have to be willing to accept, yes, I'm a fool. And then, all right, now this doubt is cleared up, let me go on like that. And that will help us surrender to Krishna. But so long as we have these doubts in the background, like money in the bank, to pull them out so that we can not surrender, then it will be very hard to realize Krishna. I think amongst our order devotees, wouldn't you say you don't have really any doubts? Lust, yes. Doubts, not, right? If you honestly think about it. Yeah? You say no? You mean yes? Yeah. Okay. Just checking. So, now, lust is something different than doubt. That may be something to understand. If one has a lust for something of this material world, he may have no doubt whatsoever that it's completely nonsense. He may know completely this is complete nonsense. But still, even a man of discrimination may have his mind taken away by lust. That's different than a doubt. That's weakness. And everybody experiences weakness sometimes. But the great personalities surrender to Krishna, whereas the personalities not so great, they fall to pieces in the material existence. So now it's a question of what to do when these things come. If it's a doubt, get it answered. But if it's lust, surrender to Krishna.
Also es ist schon Lust, oder? Aber die Lust, oder, wenn man sich hingibt, ist das ein Prozess, der von einer Stunde auf die andere passiert, oder ist es ein Prozess, der in Wochen oder in Monate abläuft und dann die Lust geht weg? Wenn man sich, oder kommt das auf einmal plötzlich die Hingabe, oder?
How about second by second? How about moment by moment? It is not that boom, all of a sudden, your Krishna consciousness, you're floating off into Vaikuntha. It's not like that. Second, moment by moment, you have to continuously surrender to, at any moment, if you want, you can become envious, if you want. That power is there. But for that one who tastes love of Krishna, if that nasty little envy rises up in his heart, he's immediately going, Yadavadi mamachata Krishna padaravinde navalavarasa dhamani dantam rantamasit tadavadi patinari sangame smaryamane bhavati mukha vikara shushtunishtinam cha. Ever since, Jamunacharya is saying, I have experienced the newer and newer tastes and rasas of love of Krishna. Whenever my mind goes back to thinking of the material lust, sex life or something like that, immediately my lips curl in distaste and I spit on it. So that is what advanced devotees, how they feel. Because the mind, being sometimes contaminated by the material world, may sometimes think of this or that. But when one has got some taste of Krishna, when he thinks like that, he goes, hits his head, stupid head. Of course, the materialists, if they see you doing that, they'll think you're completely nuts. They don't think there's anything wrong with anything you think. You can think any old garbage in your mind, that's quite alright. And for a devotee, it's just like an, stop! You know? Just don't do it in public. Okay? Yes?
Una persona fa un'esposizione di Krishna, come deve fare questo? Se sta studiando
I didn't understand the word. Anybody?
Maybe so.
You're here.
Ich habe die Frage nicht verstanden.
Again.
Sì.
Una persona fa un'esposizione, diciamo, per Krishna, che le vive posti, non so, che le cose per Krishna. Se sta studiando l'amore, come deve fare?
She asked if a person has some fear to approach Krishna, how to and love Krishna, how to overcome this fear and this so that she can.
That is a very good question. And the reason why it's a very good question, because I think it's a good question for many persons in the room. Not only in the room, in the world. Because there are many, many, many people who want to surrender to Krishna but are afraid to. We have found that hundreds of thousands of people, I can just tell you one thing. In America, there's a magazine called 17 magazine. I'm not sure if that's a magazine for girls or boys or both, I'm not sure. But anyway, it's a magazine called 17 magazine. Now, they made a survey of the age group from 13 to 18, I think it was, 17. And on this survey it said, I follow this religion, they said Catholic, Jewish, Protestant, I think maybe Muslim was there, and then other, right? And in this survey, this big magazine, they have, some 10 million or something subscribers, or 8 million subscribers, or 5 million, I don't know, an enormous amount of subscribers. 500,000 people wrote in Krishna consciousness. It was not a thing to check. This was in 1976 or 77, long time ago. 500,000 people between the ages of 13 and 17 or 18. That means only an age group of 4 or 5 years. So, we were astounded. We never knew there was just that age group. If you took all the age groups, you may have some millions. We had no idea. So many people out there would consider Krishna consciousness as their spiritual identity. And we wondered, where are you, all you people? Where are you? We know it in Stockholm also. We have radio. And also in Copenhagen. We have radio in many places. Anyway, we found that there are so many persons out in the material society who are chanting 16 rounds Hare Krishna mantra every day on beads. Offer all their food, have all the books, listen every single radio program. And sometimes we meet them on the street. You know, and then they say, oh yes, I also chant Hare Krishna. Oh, really? Yeah, 16 rounds. Oh, really? Why don't you give your name and address? Where'd he go? Just so afraid. Oh no, surrender. No, I can't do it. Why? All right, well, Krishna says something. Why? He says in the Bhagavad Gita that Ma Sucha, don't fear. Aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayishyami. I will protect you from all your sinful reactions. Do not fear. Because we always think, if I surrender to Krishna, then I'm going to lose everything. I'm going to lose my freedom. I'm going to lose my house. I'm going to lose my money. I'm going to lose my movies and my TV and my parakeet and my cat. I'm going to lose this and I'm going to lose that and I'm going to lose the other thing. And what will I get? Then one is so much worried and afraid and fearful, as if those things he thinks he's going to lose have any value. And they may have some value, but what you get in return is nothing. I mean, what you've given for what you get in return, it's like nothing. It's like you're giving some broken pieces of glass and you're getting diamonds in exchange. We also have one play, you know, we make a drama about the rocks. The rock play. You ever done the rock play for Sunday Feast? No? Oh. Anyway, now you can do it. I'll tell you how to do it. There's a little drama we do called the rock play. In this rock play, there's somebody walking along with his bag of rocks. Very happily. So he's walking along the side of the river. Then he sees some people on the other side chanting Hare Krishna, dancing. Hare Krishna. He's wondering. He calls over, hey, what are you doing over there? And they said, we're chanting Hare Krishna. Why don't you come on over? It's very happy. We're all having a wonderful time. Good prasadam. Everything very nice. And he says, oh yeah, I'd love to. But I've got these rocks. Can I bring my rocks? They said, no, you can't bring your rocks. You can't swim across the river with a bag of rocks. You're going to drown. And he goes, but I can't leave my rocks here. Why not? They're useless. There are plenty of rocks everywhere. You can get rocks anywhere. Come over here and get bliss. But they're this square rock. And I got a round rock. And this one has a hole in it. These rocks are very valuable. I have searched works throughout the whole world. I have worked my whole life to get these rocks. These rocks are very important to me. No, just give up those rocks. They're useless. They don't give you happiness. They're not you. You're going to die any day and your rocks are just going to lay there next to you. What is the use of these rocks? Well, what you say is good. I want to go, but I can't give up my rocks. I'm going to bring them with me. And the boy said, no, don't do it, don't do it. No, I've got to do it. Dives in the water. I'm doing it, I can make it, I can bring these rocks. I'll get them with the... Finish. We can do the rock play for the Sunday school. So, what is the use of these rocks? We are carrying the rocks of material attachment. We think these rocks are very nice. I've got all of my material things and they are just so wonderful. But actually, when you come to Krishna consciousness, you don't miss any of these things. It is a fact. So, how to get rid of the fear? By knowledge, by intelligence, by determination, and by experience also. Faith, above all, besides being developed by knowledge and intelligence, is developed by experience. When one experiences that something is good, he develops more faith in it. Just like I've given this example before. It's not obvious, but it's obvious in another sense. For instance, this floor. Why do you believe this floor is going to hold you up? For all you know, this whole floor could collapse in the next 20 minutes. Maybe somebody, some demon from over the hill has been digging under the ground and he's chipped out all of the floor and he's just holding it up with some very thin pieces of wood, and then when he's got all the devotees in the temple, he's going to knock out all those pieces and boom, the whole floor falls in. How do we know it's not going to happen? Well, we tend to believe it's not going to happen. We haven't heard anybody chipping under there. We know this floor has been here for a lot of years and it's going to be here for a lot more years. Why? We have experience. We come in here every day. We jump up and down on it like anything. We pound on this floor like anything and it doesn't move, not in the slightest. So we have faith. Similarly, when one comes to Krishna consciousness, he sees things that this is like this, every day they do like this, we take prasadam like that. These persons have surrendered, they're not feeling so badly about it, they haven't really thought they've lost anything. We don't hear the devotees complain about losing things. So then, gradually one develops some realization, and gradually, just by practical realization, he can also overcome his fear. So what I would recommend is, read Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, chant Hare Krishna, come and visit often, take prasadam, and experience Krishna consciousness, and then gradually that fear will go away.
For her, it's difficult to transform this fear in love.
Yes, you should not try to transform fear to love. You should just try to transform fear to non-fear. In other words, stop being afraid. Then, from that platform, then one can act in Krishna consciousness, and from that platform, love can develop. You can't jump from fearful to loving. That's very difficult. That's impossible. Yeah? In fact, so many relationships between people are destroyed because they try to go from that stage to this stage. The stage of loving Krishna is so far beyond. The stage of fearfulness is way over the other side. So first we go to not being afraid. We reduce our paranoia level. Then we start to act in relation to Krishna. Then all those paranoias and fears are gone, and then love will develop. gradually, stage by stage. Alright, well, it's getting a little late. Sorry to keep you waiting.